Good morning, welcome back to the Mini Performance YouTube channel. It's Sunday morning and I thought I'd talk about injectors this morning. Now, Austin, link above, for those that don't know, is my 1380 8-port, and it's always had issues starting. We noticed that it was always, well, obviously we changed the cylinder head because we swapped them about between the different cars, different engines. And we've been trying to get the cold start mapping sorted, and it was always bad to start in that it would always flood number 3 cylinder. Now, it's a pain in the ass getting the injectors to check them, but everything seemed to be alright. The plugs were mirroring what we were suspecting was happening, and what we thought was happening was that the injector number 3 was sticking, really. We thought it was sticking, and we thought there was something wrong with it. Anyway, so using the best examples of man maths, we looked at all the cars that we had, and every single Mini we have is on fuel injection. And we priced up the fact that some people charge about £15 per injector. Well, once you start getting 4 or 5 cars with 4 injectors each, it starts to mount up. So therefore, I bought an injector cleaning machine. So we Christopher took the injectors out of Austin and put them in the machine, and I'll show you the picture of the first set of readings we did. Now, it did, as you can see, it mirrored what we thought was happening, in that number 3 was putting a lot more fuel through. But what we didn't know at the time was that, as you can see, cylinder number 1 to the right hand side there was way down, and in fact it was 20% down on fuel. So that means hole number 1 was running 20% weaker than what we ever realized. Now, when you look at your lambda, it's an average of all 4 cylinders, so you don't get to see that. You just look at your lambda and go, oh yeah, it's all hunky-dory, but you don't see the material difference between each cylinder. Yes, you can look at the plugs and say there's a bit of a difference, but is it possible to spot a 20% difference on just the plug readings when they all look the same? Very difficult to say in my view. So I bought some new injectors from eBay. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I was aware that they were the cheap ones. I priced up the genuine ones from the likes of Webcon and stuff, and they were going to be about £80 each. So we thought we'd just get a set of cheap ones, and now we've got a measurement machine. We can check them beforehand to see how they perform. So what we've got here are 3 injectors. They are all the same part number, which is IWP006. The dark blue ones are the original ones, which I believe are genuine ones. They were the ones that were flowing about 120 on the gauge, roughly. Ignore what the peak flow figures are supposed to be of the injectors. This is just what it was measuring on our gauge after a run of tests. So these ones were about 120, but cylinder number 1, as you can see on that picture, was way down around about 90 odd. Then we have a set of brand new ones from eBay. These were about £100 for all 4, as opposed to about £80 for one, what you assume is a genuine one. These flowed about, I think it was 90 odd across all 4. So they were even amongst themselves, but they were 20% down in relation to the standard one, or the original ones. And then these ones that we had as spares, or Christopher had them some as spares, and these flowed about 120-ish, which was the same as the first one. So what we did was, or what Christopher did was, because obviously I was at work and left him to it, was I bought some injector baskets and some O-rings, and then replaced them. Well, what we did was, the process we did was we tested them in the machine here, Then we cleaned them in the ultrasonic bath at the back. Then we tested them again to see how they performed. Then we replaced the baskets, and the basket is, if you can see this in the top of here, there's your bottom where it squirts out. You probably won't be able to see the tiny little holes. You might be able to. And then in the top there's a filter which we call a basket, and to pull those out you can buy a special tool that you just screw in and then pull the basket out. And Christopher made a little tool using a nut and a self-tapping screw, and it just does exactly the same thing. So you just pull the basket out, bin it, clean it again, then reassemble with a new basket and test them, see how they compare. So we had, what ended up with was 3 of the original dark blue ones that measured about 120 on the gauge, and then one of these spare ones that Christopher had, the like cyan colour, greeny sort of blue, and they measured 120 on the gauge. So I've got 3 of those and one in, well, 3 of the dark blue ones and one of the greeny blue ones in Austin now. So what we'll do this afternoon, we'll go up there and see how well it starts. But just to show you how the machine works, what I've got in here now, I'll just sit down. What I've got in here now are the Injectors off Buddy, which is the K100 cylinder head, BMW motorbike cylinder head, and these injectors are the Bosch type, and from looking at the serial number they are exactly the same as these spare ones I have here, which are off the 2-litre XE engine. So what you do is you pick all your various functions on your gauge. What I've got it set at is number 2, which is idling test, and you just press start and see what it does. At the moment I've got the tap open, so the fluid's just recirculating right through. We'll just stop that, and we'll go to let's have a look. High speed test number 4. We'll start that one. And what you can do is you can look at the different injector patterns and see how they flow. I don't know if it's going to pick it up very well, but you can see, I can see straight away that number 1 isn't working very well. That one's working okay. That one maybe similar to that, and then that one's going full bore. So what I'll do is I'll just stop it, shut the tap, if I can get it. What the fuck have you done there? Right, so I'll shut the tap. One thing I will say is that we have the wrong fluid in here for testing. There's 2 types of fluid. There's a cleaning fluid and a testing fluid. It does say you can use the cleaning fluid for this process, but the problem is you get a lot of froth. So what we're going to do is just purely in future we're going to get some proper calibration fluid to go in here. It's more like an oil, I believe, and then just use the cleaning fluid for the ultrasonic bath, which is in the top at the back. So what you do is just run some tests and let it build up, and then you can see the difference between the different injectors. Look at number 1 again, it's not firing properly at all. You can see that. Spit, and when you compare to these ones, these are miles better. And even this early stage where it's just froth building up in the bottom, you can see that this one's going to be way down. So the issue with this is, obviously we've got that much froth being generated by the fluid. You have to let it settle for a little while after you've done the test, and it does work quite well because it settles fairly quickly. So what I'll do is I'll run through these tests, let it build up some fluid in there, and then I'll show you the comparison. Right, so I've been sitting here for 10 minutes in my lovely warm garage, just letting that foam settle, the bubbles burst and all the fluid settle, and there's your results. pretty even actually. What I will say is that even though all four values are very close compared to what we've seen on other injectors so far, the spray pattern on this one was atrocious. Rather than being a spray that was coming out of the injector and then hitting the fluid and creating a lot of bubbles, it was basically coming out sideways, hitting the edge of the tube and running down. You can sort of see that, well, you might be able to see that in the difference because this tube's clean, whereas these ones have still got like bubble residue on. So that one obviously needs a lot more cleaning than these three, but the values are pretty even, which is quite good actually. So this afternoon we'll go and start Austin and have a look at the fueling and see how it compares now that we've done the injectors. In theory it should be pretty much the same, but it's going to be more even across all four cylinders. So that'll be your next little bit of footage. Right, here we go. Let's see if it starts any better after its injection treatment. The only problem is that there's not a lot of life in the battery and it hasn't been started in quite some time. Oh, we don't know if there's going to be any fuel leaks either. Shit. Oh well, let's see what happens. Nothing, because Christopher hasn't turned the battery on. He didn't turn the battery on, Christopher. Well done, you noticed. The thing is that I don't know if there's going to be any fuel leaks. Right, we're going to check for fuel leaks first. Now we've connected the battery. Right, ignition's on. Fuel pump's on. It's off again. Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it putting fuel back into... I can hear it taking fuel back into the tank as well. Wet? Bollocks, is a fuel leak. Alright, we'll have to come back to that. We're going to just start it and see what happens. I'll try to start it. Oh, it's the button on the floor. It's not even firing. I'll try again. No. It's not happy. Stinks of fuel. I think we're flooding it. Right. Scratch that. No more. No starting. We'll have to check the plugs and all that. See what's happening. Probably have to adjust the map as well now. So that's the answer to the injection question. It has altered the fueling, because even when the fueling was bad before, we did unequal across 4 cylinders, it did start better than this. So there's your answer.